Okay, so the first one is about elections, and I'm gonna navigate a little bit on the Wikimedia projects. And as I said, this was an understanding that Wikidata could be used as a tool for other Wikimedia projects. And the goal was, okay, so we need to include on Wikipedia, and again, I was teaching political journalism, we need to include on Wikipedia entries on elections. And this was part of a discipline, of the syllabus in which I was talking about what in the literature we called rational ignorance, that people calculate when they go to vote whether or not to acquire good quality information, or they would just rely on, I don't know, cost-free information, which is in general very biased, which is propaganda. So it's not mobilizing their critique, or do not provide a neutral standpoint on the information they should use to vote consciously. And this is particularly important for local elections, at least in Brazil, in which we know, again, from research, that especially for councilmen and councilwomen, people will forget who they vote for after 2 days of the election, just because they cannot figure out the context of the election. And I thought, okay, so Wikipedia is a way of solving this information need. But my students, as we were working, and I've done this project for 3 years, and as we were working on them, my students felt very bored about having to create table for the results of the elections. And I actually agree with them. I'm not sure if you've tried to create a table on Wikipedia from scratch. It's painful, it's annoying, it's unnecessary coding, even if you are using the visual editor. And not only it was boring, it was also not necessarily right, because it was a lot of typing information, and this was not helping the quality of information, because as they were progressively getting bored with the activity, mistakes were progressively increasing. Whereas for this particular task, bots are very useful because they just replicate. We just didn't know how to use them for this particular activity, because the API that we could develop was not working on Wikipedia, but it actually did work for Wikidata, which is interesting. But at the same time, though I could, and I will show how it works, have created entries on these elections mostly by automated strategies, we would still lack this, at this point, uncomparable capacity of human editors to criticize and be reasonable. So it doesn't mean they all do it properly, because of course it is, there is a distribution of how it's happening. But the intellectual capacities human editors can actually get involved, make this activity way more interesting for the reader. So it was, at this point, an interconnection of automated technologies and human editors. So I'll just show how it works. So these are 2 links. Let me check if they are opening for you as I go. So, okay, so I think they are being screened. So this is just a table. This is the name of a student of mine. This is the entry that, so I'm sorry, this is all Portuguese, so I'll just translate. This is the name of the election of the article the person has written. So this is the municipal election in Petrópolis, which is a city in São Paulo, in Rio, in Brazil, in 2016. And the expectation is, okay, so when we get to the 2020 election, which is in October, if we can actually vote, if we are, if this whole thing of the pandemic is over, so people will access this entry a lot. So we've already worked on the 2012 election before the 2016 election, and we know like this is being read by 50 million people. And there are 200 million people in Brazil. So the aggregate of this information on elections. So the way it works is you just, so this is the activation of first bot. So I'm doing it on my user page. I've done it before. So this is a lot of coding. So I actually, oops, I'm doing some mistake. Sorry, we'll go back and show you very slow. Okay, so I wanted the students to have access to the code. So this is creating a draft page. So this is my user / sandbox, which is the test page, and the name of the election. And this is activating a first bot that will transclose, which is bring from Wikidata information on the mayor. So this is a lot of programming that's done. I just want students, so this could be done automatically, but I want them to have access to how dirty it looks. But let me just show you what happens. So at this point, this is a blank page, but then this is saying, okay, so this list is generated using data from Wikidata, and it's updated by a bot. So I can ask the bot to update it. At this point, let's hope it's not down. And you'll see, hopefully, this is a bot that was developed by Magnus Mask. He's a German in Cambridge, in England. And it automatically generates a text and a table. And as I go on, so this was the first one, I can actually do the second round of the election. It's the same procedure. So I go back, and so this is showing a lot of computing. This is not necessary for the students, at least for this particular project, that they know what's happening. This is what we call Sparkle. The language for the transclusion is called Lua, L-U-A. So it's generating the tables, and you can see also a narrative. This was not written by myself. It's just a template, a textual template that is being built so students actually can do the funnier part, which I'll show you just in a bit. Let me just finish creating the tables. This is the most impressive one because it's the election of the council for the city council. So it's a longer list. And now this comes with a reference, which is basically the government result on the 2016 elections. So I'm generating these as we go. So I haven't written anything. So this is all. These are all the city council that were councilmen and councilwomen that were elected. And after creating all these tables, I can go to the last button, which again is a blank page, but it's actually, let me just publish it. As you see, is the result of all this previous work, which brings an info box. So I haven't done any human editing at this point, except for creating the programming. It has an introduction. There are two sections that actually require human intervention, which are the part in which the students have to write, which is what happened before the election, how the campaign was, because there is no structured data, but all the results are automatically published. Also the analysis, is something that the students need to work. There is a navigation box, so you can check all the elections from the same state. And this was done with very minor effort on Wikipedia. So this is a case of instrumental use of Wikidata, as Wikidata is the source of all this information that is being transcoded here. I hope it made sense. So this is one of the experiments that was done, and we've created very easily all entries on elections throughout the history of Brazil, just because they didn't exist, because basically they didn't exist because they are boring to create. But with Wikidata, they just became a set of 4 clicks and then some editing on sections that we can't automatically write on. And this has led to different projects. So the same technology that we are using, which is this accessory use of Wikidata. So this is a new project that I've worked with some students. So this is Wikibooks and of Wikipedia, but it's very similar. It's basically a Wikimedia project to writing books. And this whole book, which has an introduction, again, this is all Portuguese, is written by contributing to Wikidata. So if you look, for instance, at this page, so this is a catalog of pictures from a museum we work with. And we are transcoding, if I go to the code, so just you can see how it works. This is a very long page, I haven't shown it to you, but it brings information from this Wikidata item Q4902731, which is an individual item for this picture, which is part of this important collection. It's a historical picture from this very important, a pioneer photographer in Brazil. And everything that comes below, even this text, is generated by Wikidata. So it has descriptive box on the item, bringing identifiers, reference. It connects the game to a set of, it connects the picture to a set of games in which, and I'll just show you one. So this one was, I'll show you later because it was developed in Brazil, but this one was developed by the good Wikimedians in the US in a project with the Metropolitan. So this is the picture that we were seeing on the book. So if I come here and so this one is blank, and I say, okay, so I'm actually seeing a statue. So let's say, okay, so I can actually include that I'm seeing a statue. And so I'm not doing it right now because I don't want to do the edit, but it would automatically generate, okay, so this picture portrays or depicts not only now the 1890s, but also the statue. So this is a collaborative book that is being built on Wikidata as metadata is being improved by these games or by people who are actually curating these images. We've listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of games that we can use. Or this one was developed by people for campaigns. This is a project that came from Wikilove's Africa, and you can actually also improve content that is being depicted on this image, and so on. These are a lot of queries. And I'll show them other queries later. They connect this particular item to a broader semantic context. And again, this is all being done to a single item that you can actually check. Let me see if there is a direct link. Okay, so I could actually reach this. So this is opening commons. So I can see the existence of this particular file as an image that was uploaded. And then if I go to the Wikidata item, I'll just have the structured version of this thing I've just shown you as a book page. I think because of the streaming is very slow. But you can check all the information is structured here and then transcluded to a book page. So I think this is a really cool semantic book being written by all the Wikimedians in the world as they reach this page and play these games. And they actually can generate quite, I don't even think they understand this is necessarily happening when they are doing the edit. They are improving a resource that can actually become an educational resource for people interested in the collection of this museum. So this is, again, this is in the same spirit. This is an accessory use of Wikidata to improve these other projects. So first Wikipedia and then Wikibooks. This is all in Portuguese. I've also listed here the link for the technology that was used to make this transclusion work. The technology was developed by people involved with the initiative with the Metropolitan Museum and developed or improved by the Brazilian community. It's called MBabel. And so this first exploration, I would say, is leading us as we improve our understanding of what Wikidata is providing us to the idea that we can actually have used here Wikipedia, but we can actually structure at a different level of abstraction what we are bringing to the Wikimedia projects. So Wikipedia, for instance, exists in hundreds of languages. I'm showing you here a lot of Wikipedia in Portuguese, but we know it exists in Hebrew, it exists in English, it exists in French, or over 200 and almost 300 languages. And in each one of them, there will be one, or there should be one item, I don't know, on your favorite painter, let's say, I don't know, Leonardo da Vinci. And on the same, on all these entries, his birth date or his death date should always be the same. Unless there is some controversy, then I'm not. So I'm just using this as an example. I'm not familiar, so just check there is no controversy. Let's imagine there is no controversy with the birth and death dates of Leonardo da Vinci. And it's probably true that at least one of these Wikipedias, just because it's relying on editors that get bored because they've written hundreds of entries, or they just made a silly mistake, this information that is easy to structure and to provide automatically should always be the same. And this goes for everything that we can actually structure, which is improving the quality of editing that we require humans to do. Humans should experience, this is my view, this is actually kind of controversial, what I'm saying, for several communities in the Wikimedia movement, but editors should actually have a flourishing experience, a critical experience when they edit Wikipedia. That's my view. They shouldn't spend too much time on doing stuff we could actually ask bots to do, including tables, which are painful. And I've included 2 references. One is a very new reference from Danny Vrandechik, which is actually one of the persons that envisioned for the first time Wikidata, and is now envisioning the idea of an abstract Wikipedia to sort of do what I've just said. But it's an interesting person to have on your radar. So this is learning from this particular experiment or exploration that I've done on elections.